Let's move along to the trim for the neck and the armholes. As a quick review, we're knitting this vest, which is unisex. Here it's shown with 2 inches of ease, and here it's shown with 9 inches of ease on a female figure, and both look quite nice. This is the yarn we're using. We normally get it from Hirschner's and use the largest stitch size on the bulky to knit it. Each side of the front neckline is knitted separately, and then we'll sew them together at the bottom where those few stitches were bound off. That's part of the finishing process. The back neck ribbing is already knitted, but just as we do on the front, we will knit the front and back portion of each armhole ribbing separately and then seam them at the underarm. The good news is that all of these pieces of ribbing are knitted just alike, so it's very easy to get it right in your mind. Each of the 4 areas that we work on is to be hung on 45 needles to start out. Here the shoulder seam is basted together so that you can look down from the top at the finished pieces of ribbing that have not yet been joined. This view makes it clear that I made an effort to have all the ribbing pieces begin at the same point in the color repeat so they would resemble each other very closely. It's up to you whether you think this is worth the effort, but I thought it was this time, and so it came out quite well. We begin each segment by hanging the side of the sleeve or the side of the neckline, whatever we're working on the needles that are necessary. And we do this with the purl side of the fabric showing, and stick your eyelet tool right through the edge of the fabric, right next to the edge column of stitches, and hang from there onto the needles. Be super careful. This is not difficult because we have more rows knitted than we have stitches necessary, but be super careful that each needle gets a position in its own unique opening in the fabric. They cannot share. If they do share, you will get runs and it's difficult to fix. Rather than saying you're going to hang every second row or something like that, I think it's much more effective. As a matter of fact, Michael Becker taught me this years upon years ago when I was a relatively new knitter. It's more effective to hang the ends, then divide the space and hang the middle, and divide the space again. Then you naturally get an even distribution of the fabric along the necessary needles. Once the fabric is hung, it would be asking quite a lot of the carriage to knit that thick fabric back from whole using the thick yarn. So manually knit 1 row with the carriage on the right, working from left to right so that you are the one pulling the loops of yarn through the fabric. Thread the yarn into the carriage, then use the carriage to knit 6 rows that will become ribbing. Now we're working the ribbing. I've already done 3 purl columns. This is the kind we always make if hand manipulating, with one little proviso. You want to stick your tool into that first loop that's above where the ribbing is seamed to the garment. That's the row we hand knitted. So I'm going to ladder down until that loop is on my tool, and that leaves 6 rows that I just knitted to latch up. Normally, I realize even if we're hand manipulating, we would turn down the stitch size for the ribbing. In this case, I don't recommend it. The yarn just isn't going to knit well at a tighter stitch size, and this ribbing will pull in enough to do the job. The second side will be handled just exactly like the first side, and you have the choice of using the yarn just as it presents itself, or of carefully pulling out yarn from a ball until you run into the matching spot. Here I started with pink, it transitions to green and then to blue. If I want to be particular and have the neckline a perfect match, I will look for that place in the yarn color repeat again and try to match the second side to the first side. This is a pretty ordinary process that if you use a single bed machine, you have surely done many times. The only extra challenge is just the bulky fuzziness of the yarn. You have to handle your tool a little bit more precisely, and see how my fingertip is helping the stitches on and off of the latch tool. That you don't have to do it, but it does help prevent splitting the soft yarn and complicating the stitches. And that's it for today. I will let you catch up, and next time we will knit the hem.